What we did was we would call them and say, yes, we're a friend of Dr. Perkinson's, and he has given us your name and said that although he could not invest, you might be able to. Well, I certainly can invest. I can't invest. I won't have anything to do with you. Well, why don't you let us come by your house and show you our picture within the woods and see if you might be interested after that. Well, I'm not really interested. Well, we'll be by around 8 o'clock. So we'd kind of force our way in and get the foot in the door. Then we'd set up our Super 8 projector and show the movies on his dining room wall, take down some art, and proceed to make them sick, and then hopefully get the investment out of them.
We had dentists, a couple of dentists go in. We had some real estate people. But it was tough to get people who had money who were merchants, who owned stores, because a lot of those people had money, and we would approach them. They're used to paying money and getting heads of lettuce or bottles of wine, and we wanted them to give us money for nothing, for this movie that might be successful, might not. And I remember we showed this first little Super 8 movie in the detergent aisle of a grocery store after it closed to a couple of merchants, and they didn't invest. But we really went to absolutely anybody who was financially capable of losing all their money.
Their perseverance paid off. After dozens of private screenings, they finally raised $90,000 and The Evil Dead got underway. It's got all the ingredients of a classic horror film. 5 teenagers, a deserted log cabin, a car that won't start, a thunderstorm, and a tape recorder with a mysterious message.
Shut it off. Shut it off.
I was the pseudo-hero, Ash, who was really just one of 5 generic people at the beginning, and then through a trial by fire, I kind of wise up a little bit and live.
Why pseudo-hero?
Because he's kind of an idiot. You know, if he hears a sound, he goes outside. He looks through doors that you know he shouldn't, so he's not really very smart.
But then that's the staple of horror movies, isn't it?
Oh, you have to. If they were smart enough not to go to the cabin, you wouldn't have a movie. So, you know, they show up and it's a creepy place. Well, let's go in. You know, and they found a tape recorder with some weird sayings on it. Oh, that sounds great. Let's play that. You know, and then people are possessed and like, oh, what do we do now? And you can't be too smart the first couple of times, so you let some monsters kill some innocent people. But it's important to have victims. So we were really, 5 of us were victims. So I was a pseudo-hero only because I was really a victim for most of the movie.
Did you feel under a lot of pressure while you were shooting it?
Yes, I felt under great pressure. And it was not artistic pressure, it was all financial pressure, because there were no expectations on me as a kid. It was all a question of, I have $90,000 of these people's money who I promised I would make a good movie out of. This has got to be good. It's strange, but that's where I was coming from back then.
So what do you think would have happened if the movie hadn't been a hit?
Well, then I would be selling air conditioners again, which I'm pretty good at. You see this little baby that'll put out 200 BTUs. It'll cool a room basically 20 by 40, and if you want to blow it around with a fan, I got that too. Sell air conditioners was terrible.
So did they make the money back?
In fact, on Evil Dead #1, we've returned to the investors about 3.5 times our original investment.
How much control did they exercise over the movie? Did they keep in touch and keep an eye on how things were going?
No, they were very good to us, actually, the investors. They never hassled us. We would we would give them a bi-weekly letter to tell them where we were and what was going on. At this point, the picture is in editing, the picture is in music, the picture is in dubbing. And then we sent them 2 invitations to the world premiere.
Well, effects are done very simply, but they're really effective. I mean, why is it you think other people spend so much time and money doing things that often don't look as good?
I think it's the same syndrome for all low-budget filmmakers. They just don't have the money to do it right, so they've got to do it. They've got to sit down and figure it out. Well, how can I make somebody float? Well, something has to lift them up. Well, what's going to lift them up? Wires? I don't have wires thin enough, nor do I have a rig to mount to the ceiling of this place. What else? So I think it's just common sense.
So do you think as you move into a bigger budget that you might lose some of your common sense and start?
Yeah, I think that happens. I think you suddenly say, how can I get someone to float? An anti-grav disc. How much will it cost to make an anti-grav disc? I think that is a danger. A number of the investors came up to me after the movie and said, and they were a little bit angry, you told me you were going to make a horror picture. Now, this is a comedy. Well, it's a horror picture with elements of comedy. But when the checks started coming in, when it turned out that we had made something that could actually sell, they loosened up and realized that we hadn't let them down.
How did you go about getting a distribution deal?
Rob Tappert, Bruce Campbell, and myself went to the home of distributors, New York, first, and we crashed on people's floors. I remember one place, we didn't have enough money to rent a hotel room or a motel room, so Bruce called this girl that he knew liked him. Say, Betty, I'm gonna come by your place. I'm in town. Oh, great, come on by, Bruce. Hey, can I stay the night? Sure, I'd love it. She was coming on to him in Detroit. So Bruce shows up at her door. She opens it. Bruce, Rob and I are there. Hello, hello, we're here too. She went, oh, you're all here. Okay, come on in. You can stay the night. So it was a nightmare to use this woman's apartment. We had to dupe her, first of all. And then Rob and I would hear this horrible struggle going on in the back room. This apartment was no bigger than this room. Her advances on Bruce. Meanwhile, I was trying to fall asleep, pretending it didn't exist. She had 6 cats in this apartment. Not that I was in any position to complain, mind you. I'm just saying that when I awoke, I slept in a bed of cat hair. When I awoke, my face had all puffed out. It was a nightmare. We'd ride the subways with our film cans in hand, show them to distributors in screening rooms, wait outside nervously, drinking coffee, pacing around, reciting the lines that we would say to him about how good we thought it would be, and rehearsing our dialogue. We'd come in when the movie was over. He'd be sleeping, you know. Is it over? So we had a lot of very discouraging experiences. All no's.
Luckily for Sam, the film met with a different response in Europe. After a screening at the Cannes Film Festival, it was picked up for distribution in Britain by Palace Pictures.
The UK audience embraced it, and they made it a big hit, along with very good marketing of Palace Pictures, of course. And after that, the United States said, what's that? What's that little horror picture that's doing so well over there?
Despite its popularity, the film has one scene that some people found offensive. In it, one of the teenage girls is brutally assaulted in and by the woods. As a result, the film was almost banned from release on video. You regret putting it in?
I do. I do.
On what grounds?
Well, I think it was unnecessarily gratuitous and a little too brutal. And finally, because people were offended in a way that my goal is not to offend people. It is to entertain, thrill, scare, make them laugh, but not to offend them. But, you know, I know a lot of 19-year-olds that are stealing cars and murdering people. Not to make that comparison, but I think my judgment was a little wrong at that time.
With the success of Evil Dead, Sam was suddenly considered a hot young talent, and Hollywood beckoned. The result was a deal with the studio, Embassy, and a new film, a comedy